Hello, my soul brothers and soul sisters. I am Ron Smith, and this is the Dr. Ron Smith Investigate Show, where we separate the real from facts, the facts from fiction, and give you the winner's edge. And today we're going to talk about the talk. For the last couple of weeks, we've been talking about money, and that's one of the things that we need to talk about, especially in the African American community. But health is another subject that we don't talk about enough. One of the things that I did in my last family reunion is that I suggested that everybody fill out a health card. And what that on that health card is basically you share what some of your health challenges are. And as parents and as grandparents, you share what that is. And that is really give a roadmap or a blueprint that the children and the grandchildren can actually observe and know what to expect. So today we have Roy Harris. She's new to our SKST family, and she's be coming out with her own show, but she's going to tell us a little bit about her experience with having autism in her family, and then she's going to give you some more information about what's coming up with her. Roy, how you doing?
Hi, thank you so much, Dr. Ron, for having me today. I want to thank you as well as Cami Grayson and DJ T Nice for having me. And I'm glad to be a part of the group. My name is Royal Harris. I am the president and founder of Heart of the Brain Foundation. It's a nonprofit for autism children. Mm-hmm. So whether we're addressing the wheelchairs, reserving time at a water park, or simply singing a karaoke song, Heart of the Brain Foundation is a go-to for sensory relief for families.
Awesome, awesome. So you have personal experience with this. First of all, define what it is and what is not, and then tell us a little bit about your journey.
Okay, the autism spectrum, I define that as having something to do with the intellectual of the brain disorder that inhibits or hinders one participation with interaction with society. Mm-hmm. And as far as a child living with a physical disability, we must think, how does that interact with their participation, far as they're climbing up a stairs, going up a slide, or just the environment that they need to be in?
When would you first start noticing there might be a situation that might lead to autism? How old would it, the infant be when they start giving you the signs or symptoms?
Okay, far as autism, it could be acquired, whether it's present at birth or later on in life. Mm-hmm. We will not know unless the parent knows that the child is acting out of character or the behavior is of change. And that's when it's most likely to have that child evaluated to see if he or she falls under the autism spectrum.
So with sensitivity to light or a speech impediment, or what should I be looking for?
Absolutely. Looking for the signs of autism, it could be a child grabbing at the ears for the ringing. Mm-hmm. Some children, they hear many decibels more than others can hear, and that sound could be as deafening, also a threat to harm their ear syndrome. And lightning, we must keep in mind that the lightning for the child could be sensitive for their eyes. Mm-hmm. And remember those color puzzle pieces. The red and yellow are great for stimulating their eyes. The blue aids concentration, and the green is for the darkest essential of getting a lot of sleep in therapy. And a lot of people aren't aware of those symptoms and what could trigger a child's anxiety, but we must do everything possible to help alleviate that.
So could you give us some examples of how you knew that you need to look at your child differently, or they need to be closely examined?
Yes. As a parent of an autistic child, my child has a brain deformity. Okay. So he was acquired with his autism spectrum in the birth. Supposed to have been a great gender reveal at the doctor's office, dressed up as a Pink Panther. I was hoping for a girl. I already have 2 boys. Okay. And I was like, oh, this doctor's appointment is lasting a little longer than normal it was. Okay. I came back, Ms. Harris, we see fluid on the brain, which is also known as water cell fluids. called hydrocephalus.
Okay.
Immediately, my personality, anxiety, it went from, okay, I'm not just going to be a mother. I'm going to be a mother caring for a child that needs critical care and trauma he's going to be experiencing.
Okay.
So in the early stages of my pregnancy, I was often asked by the doctor if I wanted to terminate my child and even revert to out of the country to terminate my child. Abortion was not an option.
Mm-hmm.
Aware of the ability of the syndrome that could cause physical and mental and severe devastating measurements for his life, it would be severely affected. And right then I knew that I was given Roy for a purpose, and my passion is to fight for children just like him and that suffers other disabilities. And although he's nonverbal and his mobility is limited, his personality is full of life.
Now, a lot of people would think that it was something that you did
Right.
that made this possible for your child. What would be your answer for that?
Parents, do not fault yourselves. There's nothing that you have done or possibly could create it. There's not even a food or an exercise that could have prevented Roy's condition. He's seen numerous of genetic doctors. We've went through the father's side as well back as my side, all the way back to my paternal grandparents, to see what in that genetic gene that could cause a chromosome to split the half portion of my child's brain. If it's not acquired in the father or in my genetic, then where does it come? That's why we have to seek specialists and neurologists to see in depth and see what that's Down syndrome or either that autism spectrum that they're facing, to be more educated in how to care for our child.
Now, part of my brief research in this autism affect 1 in 36 children. So what would be your message to parents who might be experiencing this with their child?
This message is for not only just the parents of autistic families, but for everyone. It's the need in the society. Our autism children, they live in every community. They're everywhere. It's hard to not go without notice of seeing them. And when you do see that special child or that special parent, give a special heart. You never know what one is going through or just needs that kindness for you to educate about autism. Why is my child misbehaving? Why is my child acting out? Or why can't my child accommodate the clutter and the noise? Let's look more into the education of us parents and seeing how we can help one another. And with my podcast, Autism Respectrum, coming soon.
Yay!
This will give opportunities for parents to have autism parent support groups where they can gain perspectives, trade resources, share battle stories, and also share victories that we want to celebrate with our children. But that's most one of the common ways for an autism child to make a friend is through their parents of a natural special bond.
Now, one of the things you mentioned that during your prenatal care with your special or your doctor at that time before you went to a specialist, is this a congenital situation also where there is could be a healthy pregnancy and the person, notice something different about their infant, or is it most, you find out this about during the pregnancy?
Yes. I found out about my child during my pregnancy. I also, I have 2 other boys. They have nothing but asthma as far as severe chronic disease.
Mm-hmm.
And my child, Roy, like I said, that wasn't discovered until the 5th month of my pregnancy. I was still carrying my child. And so just to be aware that this syndrome was still holding my child back, but it wasn't holding him back from developing.
Right.
So that's what I take on as a.
So can a parent go through full term and then find out later? Or is this something that a doctor will find out prior to delivery?
Yes, speaking from experience, my pregnancy was full on healthy until about the 7th month. I went into high blood pressure, and it's just me being on medications to try to help care for my child in the inside of me. And before then, I was healthy, eating normal, the average junk food, but normal, had a healthy pregnancy, carried my child all the way to 36. It's the doctors and the nurses that will, which is okay because they will give you and try to prepare you for the worst. But as a parent, you don't want to prepare for the worst or hear for the worst because
Right.
you feel your child, you hear your child. And if you carried your child the whole 8, 9 months, you are expecting to see a baby being delivered. With the labor and delivery room being 20 plus filled, we were blessed and grateful when Roy came out crying. So it is possible for a autism child to be developed and born inside of a healthy parent and have a healthy and normal delivery and still come out healthy and normal. Only thing that would interrupt that is deformities or respiratory issues. Other
Okay.
than that, your child will be healthy. And Roy is healthy other than experiencing autism spectrum.
Now, when you mentioned spectrum, so that means that basically there's other things that besides the sight and sounds and colors. Tell us about the spectrum.
Yes, autism spectrum, it falls under different levels and categories.
Mhm.
We have our special needs children listed under autism spectrum. We have our disabled children labeled under autism spectrum. And it's not fair because one of the children's needs are not being met. Whether it be a child that wets himself, his needs are not being met. Or whether it's a child that likes to wander around, his needs are being met. And that brings us back into education, medical, and sometimes engaging in a community. Some people are not sure how to approach an autistic child or how to deal with an autistic child.
So, what would be for me who hadn't been in an environment? What should I be looking for, and how would I approach a child or in a child and a parent? What would be the most compassionate thing that I can do?
Let's say if a child is nonverbal, you would use facial expressions or even sign because somewhere in the home, the parent or family is introducing a nonverbal child into sign language or some type of communication, whether they can use their limbs, hands, or their feet. But sign language is one of the cues to go to for a nonverbal child. And if you can show gesture, happiness is always a cue for a child to say, oh, but this person does not mean danger to me. This person is welcoming to me. Or whereas a child that doesn't like to be touched and whatnot, you can always open your arms to see if the child would embrace you. If the child turns away, you can tell that that's not a comfort level for them. And you don't want to force that onto a child because you're not sure of how they would protect the exception of you touching them.
Why you think this subject is, and I know April, I think, is the Autism Awareness Month. Why you think in the Black community we don't talk about autism?
I can say that in the beginning, I was a little ashamed and embarrassed. So I may speak for plenty of those out there. It's not okay to hide your voice. You need to advocate and speak for your child. If you do not speak up for your child or children, no one would ever know what they need. Their needs need to be met, whether it's assistive technology, whether it's textbooks that's unavailable in Braille, or even physical barriers, things that are not in reach of a wheelchair use, playgrounds that's not wheelchair accessible, bathrooms, things that we're so accustomed to that society has not taken into account for autism children. When we have these events for autism children, do we accommodate an area for them where they can just have sensory tools? It's not necessarily they have to ride on a roller coaster ride or jump on a bouncy house. That prevents some of our autism children. So can we just accommodate an area and even an activity for them? It makes them feel like they're included instead of excluded. And a lot of people don't like the puzzle piece because of what is being rumored to say about, but that puzzle piece is to be placed into society. And I am an advocate for my child.
So your the group that you created, what type of educational tools that you use to get the word out?
Some families might not know there are waivers out there. There are CCC waivers, DDD waivers, all about what you know in your community service board. They have a lot of things available. Some families don't know that Medicaid, they are able to provide you with diapers. There is another home care delivered they're able to provide respiratory equipment for families. And if that information is not on the table at the doctor's office or the health clinic, that parent will not know. They will continue to be paying out of pocket for items that is specialized for our children. And we have to make sure that those resources are right there in hand for families as soon as they're being told they have a child that's been diagnosed, whether it's on level 1, 2, or 3 of the autism spectrum, resources should be provided.
So what is a level 1 or 2 or 3? How would you define that?
Level 1, I'm no medical specialist, but
No,
I do my research, and I wanted to be educated myself. Autism level 1 is they're barely noticing the signs. It could be an infant, and the infant is crying or whining a lot, or pulling at the ear, or as a child is normally teething, but the child is not teething, it's something else going on. Or if the child is just staring in a daze, or also just wanting to be alone or by himself, that is a sign of the level 1. Level 2 is active. A lot of people get it mixed up with ADHD, but as far as autism children, they are active. They want to explore interests on their own. They're curious. What is this? How does this do? What makes this go up? That's the level 2. The level 3, they are in almost critical trauma. They are where they're nonverbal, non-mobile. They just are themselves and want to be themselves. And when you have a child like that, for instance, if a child is in a grocery store and falls out, you fall out with your child too. Let them know, hey, we're falling out together, but don't make it as a scene. Just make it look as if the child is, you're partnering with your child. So that's an example I could give.
So your personal experience is what level?
My personal level is 3.
Okay.
Although my child is nonverbal and his mobility is limited, I still can read his words by his eyes. I can read his words by his mouth. He will stick out his tongue for food. If he needs a diaper change, he will lift his legs up. Those are the things on the level 3 that children try to accommodate what we are so accustomed and used to. Level 3 children will try to educate us as best way as they can to help them through the care of their life.
Does food and different types of fruit has anything to do with when you're dealing with autism with your child?
Yes, many autism children are fed by the G tube in the stomach, whereas they're not can partake food in their mouth or a certain amount of food in their mouth. So you will have to speak with your gastrologist or a dietitian to see whether or not what accommodates the child and promotes the acid reflux that they're able to keep down. So you don't want to give them anything that's going to raise their blood sugar or is going to drop their low sugar. Either vice versa. You don't want anything that's going to constipate them.
Right.
Same thing. You don't want anything that's going to make their bowels loose. So you have to speak with their gastrologist.
So what I'm assuming, and because I'm a novice at this, is there a type of like a formula or a process supplemental food that you can obtain, or something that you create?
Yes, my child, he does have that Mickey G2 button that I was just informing you about. When that child has that surgery, they are provided with the dietary supplement.
Okay.
They will, I do know this, you're provided with a case of the dietary supplement. They will go over a regimen of how many grams or ounces the child should receive a day for an unhealthy start to gain weight. Now, if you're old school, like I am as well, you can take a little blender and make your own blend since you're not comfortable with other foods and you're concerned about what you put in your child's body. I blend up some strawberry peas, a little mashed potatoes, no salt, but just healthy, natural foods where I can add his milk supplement to a nice little puree and then run it through his machine.
Okay.
You can either get it that way, and also you don't have to pay out of pocket for that. Medicaid also has a resource where you can have that delivered to your home.
How does SSI come in helping you supplement the things that you have to do
Families, do not leave that hospital, doctor's office. If your child has been diagnosed with the autism spectrum, let that nurse or doctor know. You need referrals to the SSI, CSB. You need all of the information before you leave that doctor's appointment or hospital. They will get you squared away with whether a case manager or a care coordinator with your choice of medical services.
Now, how do you go about educating, entertaining, social interaction? Can you give us a little bit about your day with your son?
Yes. What I do with my child, we do a lot of TikToking, and when he's up to it, I try to interact with him with Coco Melon. But that's another reason why I started my nonprofit, Heart of the Brain Foundation. We create a space where they can enjoy accessible and adaptive everyday play. And so whether I'm renting out an indoor space where they can have arts and crafts and sensory bands for, it could be feeling the grass, fake grass, feeling the rocks, feeling some type of water, or whereas they're in an open field, just kicking the ball and having fun with the open space. Those are activities I do with my child home, blowing bubbles, and I would like to bring that to the community, whereas children that can't travel from the South Side versus Peninsula are being brought those activities from Heart of the Brain Foundation.
Now, we talked a lot about your son.
Yes, it's my passion.
And one of the things that is, unfortunately, by lack of a better term, in vogue, when we're talking about self-care. So how do you get self-care?
Okay, great question, because autism doesn't come with a manual. It comes with a parent that does not give up. And I'm that parent that does not give up. And for my child, Roy, he relies on me 24/7. And this is an everyday thing for me. And if I'm not taking care of myself, who's going to care for my child the way that I do?
Right.
So it's important when my child is getting his sleep, Royal's getting her sleep. When Roy is eating, I'm eating. So I try to accommodate my schedule around my child. And there are resources out there, again, for respite hours for moms that need, not going to say a break, because we enjoy taking care of our child.
Right.
But like you said, self-care. When we need to use those couple of hours, respite is 3 hours, which is we're grateful for. But you can use those 3 hours to go out, get some air, do some shopping, go hang with the girls. But you always know that you have a registered nurse there at the house with your child, and you can still go out and take care of your own self. Whether you want to go exercise, swimming,
Yes.
you're still in prayer. Keep God involved.
Yes.
You have to. Don't do anything without the Lord blessing you and your home and your children. But that's how you take care of yourself.
So that resource, how do we connect with that resource?
For our Heart of the Brain Foundation, you can find out more about our website at heartofthebrainfoundation.com. You can get my contact information, cell, email, and also check out the photos that we've been having, amazing events throughout the 757 Hampton Roads area. And that's pretty much it. heartofthebrainfoundation.com.
So would you, we have a few more minutes left.
Okay.
Would you describe your typical day for you? Reason why I want you to do that, because a lot of people are suffering in silence, and they think that when they first get, it's almost like when they first hear they've been diagnosed with a disease. Could you explain that I guess the emotion that you went through when you were diagnosed, and how were you able to overcome? I know you mentioned some exercise, and you mentioned that the spirituality part of how you do it, but we want to hear from how you do it.
Yes. Okay. My goodness. Okay. My Roy, he's 7 years old. So this has been a journey, but a long journey. And I want to speak for some of the families. In the beginning, it was hard. Like I said, those resources that I'm still fighting for, and those rights that I'm still fighting for. My child, it was hard. He was suffered from the respiratory. He stayed an extra month in the hospital because of his breathing. So my everyday life was waking up middle of the night. We don't have, autism parents do not have bedtimes. We don't have times to go to bed or times to get up. I'm constantly checking my son, breath here, laying my head here. It wasn't until 2 years after my child was born that I was introduced into a pulse ox. A pulse oximeter, since I'm talking medical terminal, it regulates my son's heart rate, his oxygen levels, and it just keeps me aware that he's alive.
Right.
I was grateful and thankful for that. He was recommended surgery for a trach. I declined surgery of a trach. Like I said, want to educate myself, and I don't mind suctioning my child. That also includes my daily life of making sure my child doesn't choke on his own saliva because of his epiglottis being underdeveloped.
Right.
So I'm getting up at 6 properly. Every morning at 6 o'clock. I'm making sure that his bags are prepared for his feeding machine. In between that, he could wake up at any time and cough up some congestion from the saliva from overnight. I'm constantly 10 times a day, I'm suctioning my child to make sure he's clear of any secretions. I have to change my child's diaper because he's not potty trained. I have to move him, a transfer. So again, he's not mobility. He doesn't walk. So my physical strength is picking him up, putting him into his lift, and whether I'm putting him into his walker, putting him into his activity chair, or even his bath chair. That is the strength of this little old woman is doing for my child.
Right.
Okay. And after I've either gotten the day situated with lunch or we've had an activity day in his activity chair, we're back to his bed. He has a safe bed that helps him with his epilepsy seizures. It's padded. That's also available resource for autism children that has problem banging their heads or hands on the outside of the hardware. That is a resource. I'm putting my child back in his bed, giving him a full bath. That takes up space because you have to have the wheelchair. You also have to have the bath chair and the necessary accommodations to give the bath. And by then it's evening. So we're winding down, getting ready to change his clothes. And it's a struggle when your child, his limbs don't go the way that our limbs go. So we have to use clothes that's buttoned up here or buttoned up there. It's a real life struggle. And also, when you think it's time for bedtime, your child is right back up and he wants to play at 12 midnight.
So you mentioned a few things, and we have a few more minutes left. So specifically, how do you get self-care?
I get self-care with the help of my other children and my mom. It takes a great support system. You need trust. You need someone that's going to be there and say, Royal, you got this. Push forward. You got this. Is there anything that I can help take off the load of you so you can go out and enjoy yourself?
So we talk about the village. So let's talk about your nutrition. And we're talking about whether you have some form of meditation. How do you connect with your spirituality?
Sure. I'm a child of God. And right now I am in the process of fasting. I try to do that to be strong and strengthen in the word of God. And that always is empowerment and the movement to keep me going. I make sure I have a healthy breakfast. I try to skip my lunch. That way I can prepare a big dinner for me and my children. And also I take Zumba classes and line dancing. And that's a way to just get all of my body moving and working out. So, and shouting on Sunday.
That's what I want to hear. So if I was a parent that had a child with autism, what would your advice be to me? And that I just found this out today.
I would say, Dr. Ron, take down my number. Anytime that you need to vent and need for me to listen, I will be the one that you can lean on, because I am a parent that lives this struggle and fights for rights for my child every day. I would invite you to our autism support groups where there's other families that's looking for answers just like you, whether their child is having trouble in the education field or having problems just engaging in the community, making friends. I would offer a comfort and a sit down with you to let you know that you can feel my passion and I'm here for you.
And I can contact that group. What's that?
Autism Respectrum.
Give it to us again.
Autism Spectrum coming soon to you on SKST.
My time is up, and I thank Roy Harris for all the information that she has provided to us. I mean, we have a woman who's has devoted herself to her family, and she will give you the inside scoop of what you need to prepare yourself if you are in that situation, or join the group and look out for her show that's going to be coming out in the next couple of weeks. My time is up, and I thank you for yours.